Yeah, so we have just talked about how to load, which is initial and also later loads. Yeah. Now we are going to talk about while loading, how are we going to load it by using what trust. Yeah. So which means trust is a concept within this loading layer which is going to help us in order to load the data with confidence, which means how much we can trust each source system data. That will be answered by what trust framework that we have within this loading layer. Yeah. So that's what we need to look at. Yeah. Fine. So let us try to look at what this trust. Yeah. Trust we need to start taking a look at now. Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to talk about this particular trust. Let us do that. Yeah. So now let us say we have source system 1, source system 2, source system 3, source system 4. So we can have n number of source systems. Yeah? So once we have it, then let us say we have n number of columns. Yeah? Like simple columns C1, C2, C3 and so on, right? Now let's say data is like this: A, B, C, whatever, A, null, null, or C. Yeah. Then source system 2, let us say AB and BC, CD. Source system 3, yeah, ABC and B, C, D, E, F, yeah, and then source system 4, A, B, C, D, and B, C, B, D, whatever, and some null data. Yeah. So assuming that we have this kind of data that we got from 4 source systems. Yeah. Now what do we need to do? So assuming that all of these 4 records are duplicates. So based on what, let us say C1 column. Yeah? Assume that based on C1 column there are matching record. This is what this assumption. How to calculate, how to identify matching record, that part I will talk about it. Yeah? So because trust is mainly applicable if there is a similar data. Yeah? Then only trust is applicable, or else trust is not applicable. Yeah? Now let us say here we have 10, let us say 1 and 10 here. Yeah? Then second source, yeah? Here let us say 20, 20, 30, and then third source, yeah? Let us say we have this is, let us say 90 example, or let us say 10, this is 100. Now third source, yeah, here let us say 70 and 11 and let us say 90, and then fourth source, yeah, let us say 99 or 90 and 50, yeah, or 70 here, or let us say 1010 and then followed by 2. So assuming that this is what we have defined as part of trust configuration. Yeah. So remember these values, right? Like whatever we have just given here, those values will be obtained from whom? Data steward. Yeah. So trust values. Yeah. So that we are going to get it from whom? Data steward. That's it. Yeah. Now, once you get that, start applying those values. Who does that? Developer or administrators. That's it. Yeah. But on what basis these values will be derived? One simple reason is what? Based on the past history of the data. Yeah. I repeat, based on the past history of the data, we could come up with what? These trust values. Who does that? Data steward. So likewise, we have some more factors like a validation, validity, and decay. These are the 4 factors which will be considered by what? Data steward in order to build this what trust values. Yeah, so let us try to get into what how this trust is going to what help us within this MDM. Straight answer is what the trust values are going to help us while what formation of the master data. Yeah. So now, which means what? When do you create master data? During what? Merge layer. Yes or no? So till then, these trust values will not be what? Effective. So which means we just configure and leave it there. So later on, it will be effective so that we could able to what see the effect of that when you try to run the merge process. Yeah. Fine. So that's what will happen. Yeah. Now let us see. Let us say during merge how we could able to see trust values. Yeah. So now let us say now trust is only one factor that we are going to consider while formation of the master data. Yeah. Now, if we take that as a base, then let us apply that to this particular source data. So what happens? First column, if we take whichever record has got highest trust. So which record has got highest trust? So last one, which is what? ABCD, right? So I repeat, last record has got highest trust, so this will get survived. Yeah. And then the next is going to be what? Oh, what I'm doing? Yeah. So last record has got what? Highest trust. It will get survived. Now the next is what? Column 2. If you take second record has got what? Highest trust. This value would get survived. Similarly, column 3, which record has got highest trust? Third row. Yeah. So that's it. Which means what? Trust is a very straightforward. It is the indicative measure of the confidence. That's it. How do you measure it? By numbering. So numbers would be varied from 1 to 100. Yeah. And what basis we come up with these numbers? Who does that? Data steward. They will consider many factors like what? Age of the data, validation of the data, validity of the data, decay of the data, and history, you can say. Those factors will be considered by data steward in order to what? Derive these trust values. Yeah? So that's the starting point. And then once you do that, how are we going to configure? We need to pick up each source system and corresponding column and supply what? Trust values. Same thing need to be repeated for column 2, column 3 and so on, and supply appropriate columns over here. That's it. So this is what we do in order to what configure trust values. So there's a question from Samson. Can you please explain again trust definition? Trust definition, it says, I think I repeated that, is an indicator measure of confidence, and how to configure for each source system respective column we need to configure. Samson. Now there's one more question from Yash. S1 for C3. S1 for C3. This is 100, right? Yeah. So C3 is what? This is not, this doesn't have highest. Let's say this is 60. So this has got highest now. So it will get survived, which is what? This one. Whichever is highest, that will get survived. You are right. No? So that's it. So this is what is going to be the master data, which means trust will have a lot of effect. You know? That's a concept. Now we are going to understand like how to configure this particular trust or trust settings within this what loading layer. Yeah? So let us start doing that. Yeah? For that we need to get into what to a base object table, and we need to enable the column as what? Trust enable column. I repeat, the first and foremost thing is what? To configure trust. We need to enable the column as what? Trust enable column. For example, let's say country code, yeah, or it's already enabled. So let us take another column is a country name, where you want to what? Supply trust. So before configuration of this, if you go and look at here, where you will have what? The trust which will not be defined here. Can you see here? We don't have country name. We have city name, state code, all that, but we don't have what? Country name. Now if you want to what? Configure trust even for country names, then what do we need to do? Go to address, any base object table, select this particular country name column and enable this column as trust enable. That's it. And then save it. Once you configure this, after that we need to get into what how to configure trust settings. Can you see here there is a warning message which indicates what? In order to effect with the previous trust values for other columns, right? We need to what? Run synchronization. So this column will be in sync with what? Previously defined metadata columns and corresponding data. Mainly it is for metadata. Now let us go to systems and trust tool, where we can see what? Country name, which is going to be the one of the column here. If you look at country name, so we don't have any data here. Can you see here? Admin, meaning what? We are not getting country data from any sources, but country code we are getting it from 3 sources. Yeah. So that's what we can see here. So 1, 2, 3, from 3 sources we are getting what? Country code. Country name we are not getting it. How do we validate? So we can go to schema, staging tables, select this. So do we have country name here? We don't have it. Do you have country name here? We don't have it. Only code we have. Similar, do we have country name here? We don't have it. Similarly, you can take another staging. We don't have country name. That is why what? We cannot apply any trust for source systems. By default, you will have what? Admin source system. Yeah? So which we can define with what? Maximum and minimum values. We'll define this. After that, we'll enable another column where we are going to get that column from more than one source, so that we could able to see the effect of that. Yeah? I picked up the column so that you can understand, okay, if we select some column which we don't get from other sources, we can't define what trust values for that. Now, we need to start with what? Maximum trust and minimum trust. Maximum means what? Upper limit of trust value, and then lower limit of trust value, which means, let us say, today when you start the business, so this much you can trust with respect to the data of what we receive from a number of sources. And once you, let's say, after 12 months or after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, example, the trust is going to be, let us say, 12. So that number should be derived from data stewards. So they need to calculate and come up with what? Minimum trust value. There's a question from Samson: when we'll have huge number of records, say millions of records, how can you give trust values? This is based on the column and source system. For example, 10 columns, 3 sources. So 3 sources, 10 columns only. It's not per record. Remember here, the trust values, like whatever we discussed here, right? It is not per record. It is based on what? Source system and column only. Let us say we have another same source with some other values. Let's say AA, BB or whatever, right? We can have it. But if this particular record is a duplicate record, then whichever most recent will be survived. But let us say if this is not a duplicate record, only this will be participated. That's what happens, Samson. So which means it's not per record basis, it is based on column and source system. That's all. So for each source, from each source system, we can have n number of records. We don't assign trust values per record. We assign trust values per column. This is a column, this is a source. That's what you need to remember. Clear? Clear, Samson? So fine. Now let us start. Saving. Yeah. Now we define what? Source system admin. This is a default, maximum, and minimum. So based on those values, we can see what graph in the bottom. I repeat, based on this trust, we can see the graph from what maximum trust, how much? 90 from admin source system, which is what? Expressed in the y-axis. In y-axis we have what? Trust score, which varied from 10 to what? 90, because 90 we gave highest. If we give 100, one more will be added in the graph in the y-axis automatically. So this is what we call trust decay graph. So because trust will be decayed over time, time will be shown in what? An x-axis, which is a date, right? So Jan 2011 to what? Jan 2014, which means what? 3 years. When you define trust, right, by default it will be effective from January of that particular calendar year. Though this is what some year, let us say some month, which is November, but still trust values will be effective from that particular January. But if you want to change that date, we can always change it. It's a test offset date. Now look at here, we define 3 is a decay and years is what? Unit of measurement. So 3 years. Now the next thing is what? We have a graph type. I repeat, we have a graph type which is going to be what? The slow initial and rapid later. I repeat, we have a graph type which is what? Slow initial and rapid later. Meaning what? During initial days, when you start from the maximum, right, this decay will be less. As you go down, can you see here for the first year, right, till first year, end of first year 81, end of next year, can you see here 55, 81 to 55, which is more than compared to what? 90 to 81, because here it's only 9. 81 to 55 means what? More than that. So whatever, 34, 36 or whatever. Now the next is what? Again following year, which is from here to 55 to what? Some last value, which is 12 or whatever. This is further downgraded. Yeah. So which means what? As you go down from left to right or from top to bottom, trust will be decayed. So we can say that trust will be decayed over time. Initially it will be less, which is a downgrade. After a while it will be rapid. Yeah. So which is what we can see in this particular graph. For example, if we change this to what rapid initial and slow later, which means what? During initial days, let us say we don't trust much. In that case, there will be a sudden fall of downgrade percentage, but after a while, let us say we are going to make it as what? Stable. Then we can see what? Slow later, which means what? There is a downgrade